Hey, Soraya.
Hey, Jeff.
Cheers.
Salud.
Yeah, so I got my nifty coffee cup from our friend Frank Dragato, who put our symbol on a coffee cup
Very nice.
and on a Christmas ornament.
Yes.
Aw.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to Frank DeGrotto and all the fellas at the JFJ Conspiracy Podcast.
Yes, we love those guys.
Yes.
At least 3 of them. So Soraya, here we are. We did a couple weeks. We took a break and spent time with family. Thanksgiving. Yep. You had a good Thanksgiving?
I had a great one. What about you?
We did as well. Yeah, I was on the plane flying to the East Coast most of Thanksgiving, but we got into the East Coast late and celebrated the next day, but it was very nice. So.
Sounds like it was a good time.
Indeed. I love the holiday season.
It's the best. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Speaking about awesome.
Yeah.
We've got some awesome guests today. We haven't had guests for a while. We've been doing a lot
of we've kind of kept it a little simpler, but today we're definitely expanding the discussion. Do you want to tell our listeners what we have in store for today?
Well, we've welcomed back the wonderful Ronnie Barnett, who
absolutely
yes, who is our muse, our inspiration, and our coach at times.
Yes.
So Ronnie's going to be joining us as a guest host as we welcome all 3 living members of Game Theory that recorded the Lolita Nation album. So
yeah.
So that's going to be very cool because we've had 2 of these people on before, not together, separately, but we're going to have all 3 of them. And it's going to be fun because this is a great double album released in 1987 on Enigma Records. And there's a lot to unpack, I think, here. So
I think you're right. And I think there's a lot to be told. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting ready to get started.
Yeah, me too.
So let's do it. Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
A podcast where the 2 of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a groovear.
Let's get groovy.
There we go.
There we go. Yay!
Oh, hi, Guy. Yay!
Very cool. Looky here, Soraya. Looky what we got.
I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm loving this.
Oh, thank you, Soraya. Appreciate that.
You know, Ronnie, you set the tone.
You know, Guy, it's nice to meet you. I'm Ronnie.
Hey, Ronnie. Nice to meet you.
Yes, absolutely.
And Jeff, maybe we should introduce ourselves too. Hi, Guy. I'm Soraya.
Hi.
Hi, Guy, and I'm Jeff. So Soraya and I are hosting this thing that we call a podcast, Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme. And Ronnie is our frequent co-host and our muse, our inspiration, our coach, and he gives us realistic criticism when we need it.
Yes.
Awesome.
So, and he,
well put.
And he's our music expert, so we like to have Ronnie on to guide the conversations as they should go rather than rambling, which I tend to do. But we wanted to thank all of you for coming on. And I think, Soraya, you have a little introduction.
Yes. So for our listeners, you are really in for a treat today. We want to welcome back, of course, our guru and guest host, Ronnie Barnett, and also welcome back Donnette Thayer and Shelley LaFreniere. And also welcome to the show, Guy Gassuan. Did I say that right?
Perfectly done.
Wow.
And today's discussion is really something that Jeff and I are really excited about. And we're going to be taking or listening to anecdote stories about Lolita Nation by Game Theory. There we go. And I'm expecting Ronnie's show and tell any minute now.
Oh, well, I'll show my copy here.
There you go.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
signed by everyone in 1988. Yeah.
Wow.
It was in Houston, Texas, Guy. I'm from Houston, so it was at that show. You guys stayed in a house behind the club. You probably don't remember.
That
but
was such a fun show. I
Yeah.
remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was
And
a,
they-
I wish I did.
I think we were,
I
we were
remember
blown-
staying at the house, but I don't remember the show.
I remember there was a liquor store across the street that wouldn't sell us beer unless we drove there. They had a drive-through window. You had to be in a car to buy alcohol.
Oh yeah, you can't walk up. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow.
That makes sense. Well, they tore that club down now. It was an old Polish hall. It stood for like 100 and something years, but they tore it
Oh.
down a couple of years ago. So
Uh,
too bad.
Always
I have a
sad.
piece of the flooring though. So I have a piece of the floor that somebody stood on while you guys
Excellent.
played.
Look at that fine collection. It can go in your fine collection.
You know, yeah.
So
Anyway,
Guy, I think we got to start off with the obvious question. We love for us and our listeners to know, how did you join the band?
I joined with through Donnette, actually. We were working at a club called DNA, and I'd been a doorman there, and I think we were doing some stuff setting up the club. And she said, my boyfriend has a band and he needs a bass player. And I said, okay, well, I'll listen to the tape or whatever. And I listened to the tape and I thought, wow, these guys are really, really good. And I was wondering how come they weren't signed. And she said, oh, we have a record deal. We're just looking for someone to tour with us. And I was like, I'm in.
And Guy was already a pretty accomplished player by that point. You were in the New Breed, was it?
New Breed and a
Yeah.
couple other bands. Yeah.
and,
I was known
did
around the city.
any of those bands make records, Guy? Do you have? Did they? Any singles? Any early Guy?
No, a lot of tapes. With the New Breed, we recorded with Tom Mallon, who at the time was recording Chris Isaac. And so
Okay.
we had to compete with the studio time for him,
Oh, wow.
with him, rather.
Yeah, Tom Mallon. He did a lot of American Music Club and lots of.
Yeah, and actually,
Yeah.
Mark Eitzel's my cousin.
Oh wow, wow, amazing! I'm a huge fan of that. We can talk about that later. So this lineup formed for the Big Shot Chronicles tour. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And we did the video for that record too.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember I did the interview or whatever at going over Scott and Donnette's house, and sat there and we played, and then we went to Robert's place of work, which was Big Shot Studios.
Right. Right.
Yep. Guy and I both we both auditioned at the same time, and
Audition, that was the word I was looking
yeah,
for.
and we both got in. So I think the only reason I got in was because Scott wanted Guy. Still to this day think that.
It was a package deal.
It was. I insisted on that. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
It's
Shelley,
interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting that the real nighttime tour was the Big Shot Chronicles lineup, and then the Big Shot Chronicles tour was the lineup for the band. That's very interesting to me.
And
Yeah,
but we toured our own record though, Lolita Nation. We actually toured that one.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say, so Shelley was the veteran in the band, and you're welcoming these two new members. How did you feel, Shelley, having Donnette and Guy join the band?
Oh, it was great. I was happy. I was happy as long as I already knew Donnette, and we were friends and done many things together, so that was all fine. And Guy seemed fine. He was playing his bass. So
Plus he could sing.
right,
Yeah.
a definite advantage.
For sure. So let's get to like the record. Like, was Lolita Nation, was it supposed to be a double record? Like, did you know that, or did that evolve when you recorded, and because Scott had all this material and ideas, or
We
was it
weren't
supposed-
really
yeah.
in on a lot of what Scott was thinking, I think, I think that it became, he had so much material that he wanted to do a double record and he could get away with it. And so he ended up asking if he could do a double record, and they said, okay, why not, So that's how it ended up And so we were, and I love that we're all here, all of us remaining members, because I think that of all of the, and I don't know this, Shelley, you'd probably be better qualified to tell, but I think that of all of the records that Game Theory did, this was the most collaborative one. So for us all to be here talking about it, I think is really so appropriate, you know.
Yeah, I do think it was the most collaborative, and I definitely felt that when we were making it, that we were all there, you know, and some of the material wasn't finished even. Scott was
No.
as we were going. I remember coming up with lyrics. In fact, I came up with one lyric, and he implied that it was genius.
Oh, what was that, Shelley?
It was. I have it written down here so that I wouldn't forget. In Saint Michael, one more for Saint Michael. No, that's not it. See, I have it right here and I can't read my own notes. The line was "Poor Dears." It was a backup vocal in I thought I had it right down here written, but now
That's exactly what we don't want to hear is "Poor Dears" is in that.
Yes, anyway, but they were coming up with backup. They didn't have lines for the follow-up vocals, and I just said "Poor Dears" because it rhymed, right? And Scott thought it was a great name. So I was being involved. I felt like I was involved in the process much more than, and definitely more than the following record, you know, or the previous one. Yeah, we were all, there was, and it seemed like we spent, because it was a double album, I guess we spent more time in the studio. We were there for quite a while, and
couple of weeks.
They were doing experimental things, you know, running wheelbarrows around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I actually found a couple quotes from Scott about it being a double album, one of which was in this Brett Milano book, Don't All Thank Me at Once, The Lost Pop Genius of Scott Miller. And there's a quote where he says, "We're going to make one of those double albums that should have been a single album," which I thought was interesting. And then another quote, this is Wikipedia, so take it for what it is. It says that the reason why you guys wanted to do a double album is because people kind of hate that idea. It was more of a fun to do this big sprawling mess of an album that people don't know quite what to do with. And he says, "I think it's good for people's souls." So I was wondering, was it good for your souls recording this big, huge, sprawling mess of an album? How did it play out for you guys recording this double album rather than a single album?
Well, I think that since it was a double album and there was extra space there, he allowed us all to do our own, have a piece on there. And so it's the only recorded piece that I ever did that I wrote on, and it's on that, you know, it's on the weird snippet side there, Toby Ornette. So I don't know that he would have let us do that on a regular album because he had enough material to fill it and he wasn't gonna, you know. That third side had a lot of playroom there, you know.
Yeah.
And Shelley, on my record, you wrote "Play Toby Ornette" over and over. That's what you wrote on this.
Excellent suggestion. How did I come up with it?
I kind of remember doing the rehearsals and kind of not really knowing where everything was going, and then going into the studio, and it seemed like a lot of stuff came together in the studio when we were actually recording.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And then just walking into that studio was, for me, I mean, in recording studios before, but that one, it was just so elaborate. It was nice, and those gigantic reels that they brought out was pretty fantastic. And then Mitch was, I mean, he really was in charge. Do you remember when he built that tunnel for Gil's drum set with towels? And then Mike
No.
Wow.
I do remember the tunnel. I didn't remember him building it, but I remember seeing it.
Yeah, we came in and it was towels and sheets and this thing. So he put the mic at the end of it, so the bass drum really resounded.
Oh wow! I don't remember that.
Things like that.
He just knows what he's doing.
So Guy, was that for a particular song, or was that the drum setup for the entire album?
That was the drum setup for the whole album.
Wow.
That was the way he recorded. That was the way. I just remember. Well, Gil and I were really tight, so we spent so much time together. I mean, it was me and him, the rhythm section.
Yes.
And watching him. just Mitch was so particular about how he set up the mics around Gil's drums. More because Gil and I were really bored watching him.
Now, Guy, you're the one that doesn't have a writing credit. You don't have a solo song on the record, is that?
No, I did.
Yeah. Just okay. Did you? I didn't know if that was conscious. Like Scott was like, okay, you're each gonna write a song that's gonna end up on here, or if it just.
I think I remember contributing riffs and things like that, but
Yeah. Nice.
Soraya, what do you
I
think
remember
about?
him just saying if you had anything, if anybody had anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
he had to.
Like he said, each one gets a one-y, or you know,
Right.
sort of like if you have some material, let's hear it.
Give it to me by tomorrow type thing, right? I mean, that's how it was.
Soraya, what do you think about playing a song from the album?
I think it's great. So why don't we start out with Guy? And for our listeners, we asked Donnette, Shelley, and Guy to make a pick of a track they'd love to hear from this album and talk about perhaps a little longer. So Guy, we're going to start with you. What's your pick?
my pick is Dripping with Looks. And the reason I picked that was I remember Scott bringing it to us and us having no idea where this was going. It was kind of like, what the fuck? And
Oh, good. We can
when we were
cuss.
doing
I
my
was there.
Oh, yeah.
we're changing it. And honestly, I don't even think Scott knew where it was going because it was so, it never worked in the studio. Remember, we were at that place in Oakland and we were just there and every other song seemed to, we knew where it was going, but Dripping with Looks was, it just was not a song. And I even remember going into the studio, and when we played it for Mitch, and he was also, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense to me. And I remember us trying it over and over, and I recall it being the song that we spent the most time on. And then finally, Mitch was like, oh, I get it. And then it just seemed to come together all at once. But it was just a cacophony until that moment.
Mm.
All
Yeah,
right.
I played
and also-
the drum part on there.
And I also remember spending a ton of time in the studio. And what made it really, really bizarre was when we were leaving, we rehearsed in like the really dodgy part of Oakland. Remember, it was near the bus station.
Yeah, I
It
remember.
was kind of scary loading out. And then it was a very well-dressed blind man came up to us. He was walking past and he asked us for directions to the bus station. And it was like at 1 a.m. It was surreal.
Wow. So Shelley, did you say you played part of the drum?
Well, my keyboard part is a percussion part at the end there, where it kind of goes into double time, and it's a keyboard doing this sort of windy air sound.
Nice.
It's hard to tell it's a keyboard, but it is.
Yeah, there are no drums in that song at all. I
Oh,
mean,
there aren't. Oh, I didn't remember
yeah.
that.
there are none. And if you listen to it, the only thing that even sounds at all like a drum is your keyboard part on the outro. And I thought that was particularly interesting, especially since the first 30 seconds of the whole album, after all of the sound snippets and stuff, is just that rolling drum thing that Gil's and not because you can.
Mhm.
And it's just so drum focused there. And then here we have this song that comes up right after that with no drums at all. So I found that interesting when I listened to it again after these many years. So
Wow.
Yeah, I will have to listen to it again and think about that because
yeah.
I've just been accepting it.
And everyone, when you hear the song right now, take note of Guy's bass playing on this song. It's
Oh yeah,
really, it's
it's
unbelievable.
masterful.
And I'm not
yes.
saying that because you're here, Guy. I'm not trying to.
And as a bass player, you would know, Ronnie. So
It really adds. You'll hear it now, folks.
let's listen to it. I would have never guessed that that was a synthesizer, Shelley, until you said that. So are you actually manually playing that, or is it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, I am.
wow.
They were happy that I could go to double time without having problems. It was one of the few things I did.
And keep time.
Yeah, and that.
Secret weapon, Shelley.
So how did you guys go about recording sequentially? Who decided what was gonna go first? Was that all Scott saying where you were gonna start, or did you guys go in and it sounds like it was kind of forming as you were recording, but was there an idea we're gonna start with this song and then go to this song, or do you guys remember?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember how we decided. It was sort of organic, I think.
There was no plan.
Do the songs that we know the best first, the ones we know the most of, and then have to work on the ones that we didn't know.
It's usually the way.
I
want to mention, I'm sorry, Donnette, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, getting back to Dripping with Looks, Donnette, you mentioned no drums before, but right before Dripping with Looks is Go Ahead, I Know You're Dying To, which is just Guy and Scott, and another amazing bass performance, Guy. Yeah, I just want to mention that because
this blowing smoke up my ass.
Yeah, no, I know, and that's going to be the last time. So enjoy.
Yeah, and Guy, you better take advantage of that because Ronnie doesn't do that very often.
No,
usually it's the opposite.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no. Speaking of sequencing, though, that works. That works so good going into Dripping with Looks. It's one of the many incredible things about this record. So just want to mention that.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So for the rest of the episode, he's probably gonna tear you down. So he's building you up.
I'm not. I don't know why I have this.
I'm used to it.
So Donnette and Guy, was your first time working with Mitch?
Yes.
Yeah. And I did there was a radio station that was doing a little a fundraiser, and they were focusing on Mitch, and I had a little chance to think about Mitch and working with Mitch, and it made me realize, he'd been kind of present in my life through Scott, and I had never met him up until Lolita Nation, right? Because Scott really protected him from having to deal with me. So I never met him. And then finally, I was in the band because of Guy, and Scott couldn't do it anymore. And so he finally had to allow me and Mitch to be in the same room. And so I was like, I had built Mitch up into this godlike figure in my mind, because here's REM, they're being the band that everybody like us, the game theory types, and all of the other musicians who were playing in clubs the same type as that we were, we wanted to be them, right? But Mitch had sort of created them, and they were gods, but Mitch was the creator of the gods. So he was bigger a deal than even REM as far as I was concerned. And then I met Mitch, and he was just this really nice guy, just so nice, and actually an incredibly hard worker, willing to do anything that it took to just get the job done and isolate the exact right sound, so that the song was just exactly how the song wanted to be. The sound was the exact sound that it needed to be inherently. And that was, I think, what he did that was so unique to him. And so I figured out that, I went from thinking he was this god to thinking he was this wonderful, nice guy, to thinking, yeah, he's actually kind of a god,
Do you remember when we met him? And he never ever talked about REM, but he was quite proud of the fact that he was friends with Pagey and Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and he had got his number somehow, and he had just called him up and.
Oh, I didn't recall that.
Oh, no.
I don't remember that.
It was Robert Plant. He was friends with Robert Plant,
Oh.
and he had gotten Robert Plant's number and called him. He had a couple of drinks of wine, and he called Robert Plant, and Robert Plant knew who he was really happy. He called. He was like, "Oh, I gave your tape to Pagey."
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, Robert.
This is first time I met this guy, and he's like, "Wow, he's friends with Led Zeppelin." That's
Shit.
I didn't know that. So I'd forgotten it. Even if I did know it, I forgot.
I didn't know that. Wow.
I remember Robert Plant used to talk about Let's Active in interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
He was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He gave the tape to Pagey.
He's so proud.
Wow. So I would imagine with a record like Lolita Nation that Mitch probably had a bigger part than he might have had on other albums because it's so experimental. It sounds like there's a lot of production efforts put into it. Not that it's overproduced, but it seems like that's what you would get with something that's more experimental rather than a band coming in and just recording. So
yeah. My recollection is of him saying no a lot.
To Scott's probably grandiose ideas.
Part of his job, right?
Well, he was such a nice guy, he would tell you, no, that sounds terrible, but he would not say it like that. And
right. Yeah. He would say, oh yeah, we could try that, but let's try this other thing too,
Kind of divert it.
Very comfortable. He was very nice and made me comfortable and feel confident and relaxed in the studio. He had a way about him that was calming. He's a calming factor.
And this was analog days, so he was very handy with the razor blade on this album. You can tell because there's a lot of that's production technique for those who don't know. You would cut tape and splice it, and that always freaked me out seeing that. I'm sure it freaks everybody out, right? When you see the producer cut tape and you're like, oh my God, how do they know exactly where?
But it was also every section of tape. So the middle of the tape was a lot more dominant than the edges of the tape. So it was very important as to what part of the tape an instrument was recorded.
Right.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Wow. So would the drums and bass, since they're maybe louder instruments, they
were closer to the middle.
Wow. Oh wow.
So that the farther to the edge, it kind of faded.
Oh.
And it was a huge tape. I remember bringing in the reels that were like 3 inches or maybe 5 inches. They were huge.
I have a piece of it somewhere.
Whoa.
An actual cut piece of the tape?
Yeah, I have some somewhere. In one of my journals, I should have got that out for you guys. I got it.
The Lolita Nation journals.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's interesting because people talk about the weirdness with the weird parts of this record, but there's actually like very simple pop songs on this record, like We Love You, Carol and Allison, and like Nothing New. I mean, those are straight ahead and they work in the context. They're there. Those are some of the simplest songs Scott wrote, I think, and they're on this record, so. Yeah,
that's a great diversity.
Speaking of We Love You, Carol and Allison, Donnette, did you want to? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it was a lot easier to listen to on a record than on a CD because you're listening to track 148.
Oh, right. Yeah. Don't put the CD on shuffle, people at home. Yeah.
All right, Donna, let's talk about your pick since Ronnie alluded to that.
I forgot, Donnette. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No. Perfect.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I love that song. And, it's one of my favorite lines in all of rock and roll is all I ate was spearmint candy, trying to change the flavor of the days. And the funny thing about that is I lived with Scott and I never saw him eat spearmint candy ever. So, but it still is very evocative of how you might do that, but it's evocative of a whole bunch of different things that are really sort of indicative of the whole record. It's this really serious point counterpoint that is dominant throughout the whole record. It's this sweetness and optimism and innocence on the one hand, and this sense that, I know I'm going to make myself really sick here by poisoning myself with this stuff and fooling myself with this diet of spearmint candy, which we all know is really not a very good thing for you. So, he's fooling himself purposely, deliberately fooling himself, and knows it. And it's kind of troubling in that way. And you can hear it in the backing vocals too, under the verses, this sort of undertone of doubt. And also, I know the story behind the title, "We Love You, Carol and Allison." He was in a bathroom and saw that written on the wall, a piece of graffito, and it said, "We love you, Carol and Allison." There was no comma, so he wondered, who is the we that loves Carol and Allison? Of course, it was probably Carol and Allison sneaked into the men's room and wrote, "We love you, haha, Carol and Allison." But really, he had to take it to this other dimension and make it into this like cult like we that potentially wanted Carol and Allison to join them or whatever. It's very it takes you into the Scott universe that can just start folding and unfolding into so many different dimensions. And that's another thing that I love about it. So it's really kind of encapsulates all of the stuff, a lot of what I like best about Lolita Nation. So, and plus I wrote my own guitar part on this song because at the time when Scott was writing these, this was right about when Shelley and Robert had their wedding ceremony, and we were really happy. We were going to go back to visit our friends in Davis, and we were excited about, visiting and hanging out with the friends from our youth. And that was that whole innocence thing again, but with this sort of undertone of, well, who knows what it's really going to be like thing too, and so there's always this pulling back and forth of feelings, and it's very interesting. So anyway, he was writing these songs and had cassette tapes of him playing the guitar, and I found them. So I was like, ooh, I can write my own parts playing these. And so I did. I wrote my own guitar part on this. And you can hear it. Mitch really cranked it up. And so, I don't think that Scott would have had it that high in the mix, and it was never very loud in any of the rough mixes, but you can hear it pretty well in the final. So I like this one a lot. This is pretty much my, also one more thing. If you look at it, it's the third song on the first side, more or less, because the songs are not really full songs, but if you kind of count two of them together, then this would be the one that Scott himself probably considered the single. The third song on the first side is the one that he told me is traditionally the single. So I'm guessing this is the one that he might have considered the single.
Wow.
Okay, that's my intel.
And the album's namesake comes from the title from this.
Right,
so
that's true.
And
Yeah.
I will add that the backing vocals on this are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they sound great. And I would think, in my opinion, this is one of the more traditionally sounding game theory songs. When I think of a game theory song, this is what the kind of sound that I hear. And you don't have a whole lot of that, like Ronnie mentioned on this album. There are definitely tracks, but it's not all this type song. So this is a great pick. So let's listen to it. We Love You, Carol and Allison, or We Love You, comma, Carol and Allison, possibly?
Well, there's no comma. There's deliberately no comma.
Right.
Yeah, he did a lot of playing around with punctuation, and I've got another story when we get to the waist and the knees. So
Yes.
I'll tell you that then.
All right, here we go. Nice. You have that little Baroque ending there, Shelley. Is that
Yeah,
you playing?
Baroque ending. Actually, what happened there was I stopped before he wanted me to. And then later they decided that they wanted it to go on. So part of that is just like cut and added onto the end. So I didn't know he wanted me to keep going anyway.
Anna, can we give it up for Gil on?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
The drums
Throughout this record. Oh, my God. And Guy, you were rocking on that too.
Oh, Don, your backing vocals just now amazing.
I definitely agree.
Those were great days. We had
They
a lot of
were.
fun.
I wanted to talk a little bit about well, Ronnie and I were talking yesterday about how the fact that it is a double album, but it's not a gatefold. So you got both records stuffed in this. Do you guys happen to know anything about like how the label felt about that?
Cheaper?
Yeah, was Enigma.
Enigma had very deep pockets, and they're so willing to spend it on us.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was
I remember
definitely a
getting-
budget cut if I ever saw one.
Remember, we had to beg them for albums. Like I think I got 2. I had to
Wow.
buy them to give them to my friends.
Yeah, I was wondering, just wasn't it because labels are traditionally, they're like, we don't want to put out a double record. I mean, did they embrace the idea, or were they like, we'll do it, but we can't spend a lot of money on the packaging?
I think that's about how it went. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that it was some kind of a deal like that. We can put 2 records inside one sleeve, and, you know, the artwork and the packaging really is the expensive part. And so, you know, that was the deal that we made. I don't remember
Was
much
it-
about that, but I think that it was something like that.
I think it was also helpful that our manager was also a record label executive, right?
Right.
The
Yeah.
slight conflict of interest, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also very simple. It might be the simplest game theory cover, you know.
All right, here's my moment.
Yes.
I wanted to do, you know, I was an artist in art school back then, and I wanted to do the album cover. That'd be like my ultimate thing growing up as a teen was, oh, I'll do album covers. What could be a better thing, having my art relate to music or something? And here I'm in this band. And so I knew Scott's general idea that he wanted the big G with the, you know, he had with the, just like what it is. So I'd done like a surrealistic painting to go with it. And I have like an absolute wretched photocopy of it because I had some cute guy visiting me in my art studio, and he really liked it. And I said, you can have it. And then
Oh.
stolen from his garage. I'm like,
Oh.
in the garage, buddy, huh? Anyway, so I've got this really very poor reproduction of it, of my idea for the album cover of can you see
Oh
it
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would have been cool.
there?
Yeah.
Very poor colors. This is more like what the real color is here. This is the only, I couldn't find the photo last night. It was like, of all the things, this is all I could find. So here's this, and then that's what it looked like. That was my version with this, you know, Lolita Nation mirror, bird looking in the mirror at itself. And Scott rejected it without ever seeing it even. So I didn't push for it. You know, he has his very specific ideas about his graphics.
Yeah, he did.
And they weren't all fluffy. I think that the next album cover, he was trying to be more inclusive of my surrealistic tendencies and having to be involved in painting that background sky. And he had the specific red he wanted it to be painted and everything. And but you can't even tell it's a painting in the background. But that is all I had to do with that design, okay? But I think that he was feeding off of my interest, which was a common interest of his at the same time, to do that album cover. And so that's why I get credited for it sometimes, but I didn't do that. I didn't do it.
And there's fantastic photos of you guys in the back. I'm especially fond of Shelley's.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if that's another story. Shoot, I don't have that picture ready to go, but it was a store window. I may have told the story already. Did I tell it last time?
No.
I guess I'll repeat it.
Yeah.
I had this friend who was designing a storefront window for an antique bead store that stole jewelry and things like that, and he had this idea for, you know, that pretty much what's in the picture, and so he had me pose for it, and I got free jewelry for being in the picture. What could I want? And Robert took the pictures, you know, and it was for this other thing completely. And then Donnette and Scott both really liked the picture a lot, and Scott was like, let's put it on the album. So that's why I got there, not because it wasn't taken specifically for it.
did we not have to edit that picture?
Oh, yes.
The record company said, no boobs, right? We have to burn those out. And so, because we couldn't, the excuse was Kmart. We couldn't sell it in Kmart. Like, who goes to Kmart? I gained 50.
Right.
And, so they did indeed do that until they did the reissue. And I think that was Robert's doing this to not, you know, burn them out. So they're plain as day on the reissue, which scared the shit out of me.
I think they're awesome.
I used to think it was so silly, you know. I thought, oh, this is really silly that they're doing this. It doesn't matter and all. But then when I saw it that way, I really felt exposed.
So on the
Yeah.
original cover, it's
Uh-huh.
not as obvious, but you all look fantastic on
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
Everybody looks fantastic on this. I love this picture of you, Donnette.
Oh, thank you.
Well, yeah.
And-
And Guy, do you have the jacket still? It's got to be.
I actually do. I kept it. I bought it in Italy
Oh,
years and years ago.
wonderful.
And it unfortunately, like, it shrank. But
Well put. Yes.
All right. So Shelley, your pick, which came as no surprise, I will say, because I think you mentioned last time how much you love playing the track live.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. In fact, I remember being motivated to go on the tour just to play that song live because it is really fun. And it was an opportunity for me to I'd gotten the DX7, which was a digital keyboard, you know, before I had the Poly 6, which Scott knew how to operate completely. He was, you know, he would show me how to do it, but he didn't understand the DX7. He didn't know how it worked at all. So this was an opportunity for me to have my area. Like I had learned how to do it. He wanted me to make some wild sounds for this song in particular. And so I got to be a real synthesizer player then. You know, I had to learn things. And
you always were.
Oh, yes, you always were.
well, you know, I got to be a more advanced, what do you call it? You know, more
Innovator, more of an innovator.
More innovative. And you know, he let me make up the sounds, and often in the past he would come up with whatever patch it was going to be for the song. And so this was my creative moment, and I did love to play it. It was really fun.
And Shelley went on to play in a noise band, right? Weren't you telling me about that?
Donnie, thanks for reminding me because I was going to forget that altogether. But that in general, this record being with all the little snippets and stuff and bits and cut up, it's like cut up. The noise band that I was in after that, New Oral Exciter, they did a lot of cut up. It was pretty much the vocals were all cut up. There was no singer. It was always just cut up pieces from, you know, newscastings or advertisements or whatever they thought was entertaining and interesting to be there. So it was a precursor for me joining that band and being interested in that whole sort of cut up in general.
And what was the name of that group?
New Oral Exciter.
Okay. Did you guys release anything?
We did on our own. It wasn't like, you know, we have plenty of CDs if you'd like one.
I would like one.
It wasn't available at Kmart, Shelley?
No, it was never for sale anywhere. It was merely just something that we had to give to our friends, or I don't think we ever sold any of them.
Understood.
So here, I've got to mention something that okay, this is ridiculous. What was it, like almost, it was 30 years ago probably that we were playing this song. And I'd been listening to it. Okay, Beckman's By the Enlistment Lines, that's the first line of this song. Okay, I had no idea what that meant. And so now we have the internet. So I typed it into Google, Beckman's By the Enlistment Line. And so it turns up this painting by a guy named Max Beckman
Yeah.
called The Night. The Night. Are you familiar with it?
Oh, yes. I had to go to art school painting. Yeah, I learned about that.
Oh, what a horrific painting. And
yeah,
it's this,
no, they were really expressing some ugliness back then.
yeah, it's the ugliest trip I've ever been on. And somebody's twisting his arm. And
Yeah.
and
Then breaking the waist and the knees, the whole thing is in there. It's
it's this just journey into chaos, and it's got the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, and you know, I mean, all of this is built into the song. I mean, and it was like, see, okay, I lived with Scott and I knew he loved this kind of thing. He would sit and read James Joyce and try to figure out the meaning of all of these things. And he built that stuff into his own work too. And I found this and I was like, ooh, oh, that's so much fun. And I was like, I had a little taste of the joy that he must have felt when he found something, a little Easter egg like that in one of the works of the people that he enjoyed. So anyway, if you get a chance, go and look at that painting, Max Beckman, The Night, and it's horrifying, and it really describes, it really informs this song. And this song is just as much, I think, a masterpiece as that work is, The Night. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Guy, is there anything that you wanted to add before we play The Waist and the Knees?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. All right, Shelley, you want to introduce the
But to
song?
be honest, I really don't listen to a lot of Game Theory anymore.
The waist and the knees.
twisting his arm. Company shall be referred to as special friend. No one twisting his arm. Money's owed. No one twisting his arm. Skill. American operatic. No one twisting his arm. Archive society. And shall not be held liable for loss to the theft. Displacement. Impulse spying or sportsmanship. Earth 12 multi-headed infant. Hobby red-faced after this lost ritual. Remembered by the undersigned. No one wins by being unreasonable. Oh, the ceiling rain. No place left that I've ever tried. Cut the silver flow. You couldn't trust me like there's still no place you can go. Gonna get held and never leaves. Gonna get cold and most still freeze. Gonna get folded into threes until you break at the waist and the knees. Fire across the temple and out the rear. Motor skill, low muscle stop. No one knows how to make it stop. I hope I can wake up.
We used to do the contract part live. Do you remember that, Guy?
Oh,
We
yeah.
would all say,
I loved it.
I loved that too. That was so much fun.
It was really fun. And the live version that is on, it's on one of these new re-releases.
Omnivore, yeah.
Just great. It's really great version.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott didn't want to do that song live. He didn't think we could do it live because of all of the snippets and stuff. And I said, well, why don't we all just, talk? And he's like, well, let's try it. And it worked.
We plowed through it with hubris.
Yeah,
Yes, we
used
did.
to have it, it went directly into another song. And I'm trying to remember what that was. Do you remember?
I was on the outs. Nothing new.
Was it Nothing New that we went
Yeah,
into directly
yeah.
after Waist in the Knees?
Always, yeah.
So what was there a reason why? Was there a reason why you would transition into that?
Yeah, because the riff at the end, there's sort of a repetitive, nightmarish, repetitive riff that I played at the end of the Waist and the Knees. That is the intro riff for Nothing
Live
New.
we did To Have Her Stand. We would go into To Have Her Stand right after.
Oh, live, yes, yes,
That's what I'm
yes.
thinking of. I always
Yeah,
thought that
you're
was
right.
a great. I mean, that was like our displaying our musicianship so
Yeah,
well.
that's right.
Go
Yeah,
right into that after such a wild song.
So Guy,
yeah.
you mentioned that you don't listen to much game theory. Is there a reason for it? Is it painful or not interesting, or there's so much else to listen to?
So much else to listen to. I know I find it's very odd for me that people are still so into, and I appreciate the fact that people still love our music, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah. I know quite a few people who are very hardcore about game theory. And I think it's for good reason, because people a lot of times will note the songwriting aspect of what Scott brought to the music, which is, in my opinion, just incredible. He's just an incredible songwriter. And then you guys just brought these songs and just made them fantastic. So I'm still listening to it.
I gotta say, as I've gotten older, I appreciate it a lot more. The lyrics. And
Yeah, I think I appreciate it more too, as time has gone by, and I had put it behind me too. I hadn't even thought much about being in game theory until Scott died, and then I got back on Facebook. I got on Facebook, and then there was this whole world of people who were interested in game theory, and I pretty much was unaware of that. Didn't seem like I was just cut out of it.
I sometimes feel I'm not game theory enough for the game theory group.
I will say that Soraya and I have actually got several requests for you specifically, Guy, and we've been fortunate enough to have Donnette and Shelley on before, and those are actually our more popular episodes that we play.
Oh.
But
We
probably
had Nan. We had Nan as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
That was a good one.
we specifically probably have had about a dozen requests for Guy to be on
At
the show as
least.
well. Too.
Yay!
Yeah.
The mysterious Guy, of course.
They're all
Where
from
did he
me. Guy,
go?
but,
What
you know.
happened to him?
Well, you see I'm Dirk Steele, so it's different names that I use.
Well, no, when these records were coming out, and I was a fan, since the second EP, I would tell people that Game Theory is a band that's going to be discovered like a big star, in future years. And, it still happens. And it's because, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but a lot of people didn't hear these records or know the band at the time. And
Right.
so it's a perfect band to discover. And like Guy, when you said you first heard the tape, like, people hear Game Theory and they're like, wow. I mean, Scott's my favorite songwriter. I mean, and at this point, it's always going to be that way. I can, but
Yeah, sometimes I wonder the way musical tastes were, if we had maybe done one more album, if it not been different.
I wonder that too, Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of kick myself like every day that I didn't just shut up and,
Oh,
go along with the program.
I think for
Yeah,
all of
well.
us, it was time.
Yeah.
There was other things in life.
So
Yeah.
on Lolita Nation, there's some additional musicians that are playing. I guess Mitch Easter might have added some piano or guitar, and then I think you might have mentioned this before, Donnette, that Angie Carlson also plays on the record. Were you guys there for any of these?
Oh, I was there
Overdubs?
for Angie's. Oh my God. I've talked about that, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Were
can
you there, Shelley? When she was asleep on the couch for The World's Easiest Job?
And still, I don't know what to do. I'll just wait, I guess.
Oh, are you
I can
cutting
still
out?
see me, and Donnette stopped. She's just frozen.
Oh, Shelley is
Huh.
apparently suffering from
Yeah.
some.
well, you're still
What?
loud and clear here, Shelley. I mean,
Yeah, I think you might be having some kind of internet. Yeah.
oh, now she froze.
Yeah, she's got some internet issues.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, she was asleep on the couch. Angie was, and Mitch decided that he needed a wild piano part on The World's Easiest Job. So he says, Angie, wake up, we need a wild piano part. And she just got up from this sleep. I mean, she was, as far as I could tell, really asleep, and sort of staggered into the studio, up to the grand piano, and just whipped that thing out in one take. And it was just amazing.
Wow.
Oh, well,
She's-
that wouldn't surprise me.
I just remember sitting on the couch with Gil, and then we'd be talking, and someone would just walk through the lobby and then right into the studio, and we're like, "Who's that?"
Right. We
So-
kind of touched on this, but we should talk just a little about side 3, as we'll call it. Now, did Scott and Mitch just create that? Like, did you guys walk in and was Scott like, look what we put together, and you heard that big montage? I mean, obviously it was probably not well planned out, and I'm thinking they're just being creative in the studio, right? Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that was a big surprise to me anyway. But I don't know if I wasn't there for the mixing or any of that, so maybe.
Yeah. No,
But
okay.
yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was brand new to me.
Right. Okay.
I liked it, but
Yeah.
And even some of the stuff that we knew sounded a lot different. Once
it
was
did.
done.
Right. So how was the
I
reception?
remember listening to parts. I was like, "Is that me?"
Right. Who knows? So I remember when the record came out. I remember it getting good reviews. I mean, do you remember the reception being good at the time?
Yes, it was. And I remember actually, I was telling Shelley this the other day. I went down to line up the video. I was talking to Enigma at the time, and I lined up the video. And the church was down there recording Starfish. So I stopped by to say hello, and we drove out from their place in West LA to the Source Vegetarian Restaurant in Hollywood. And on our way there, I played them Lolita Nation. And, you know, I was listening to it through their ears, and it sounded really good. And anyway, then on the way back from Hollywood, they played me some songs from Starfish. So it was kind of this epic car ride. Our record came out in December of '87, and their record came out in February of '88. So they were very close in time. It was interesting.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, like, overall, like, looking back at recording this record, it wasn't the last one for you guys, but do you have any specific memories of the session, and any fond memories or any memories of frustration in recording it?
I remember it just being really fun. I mean, we were all so close. You know, we came off the Big Shot Chronicles tour, and it was just, we were just a family, and just putting that record together, it was just what we did. It was great.
Yeah.
In our conversations, we've noticed a lot of bands will sometimes say that they feel like it was us against the world. Did you have that kind of feeling?
I didn't. I felt like it was us, and the world was just a wonderful place where it was more us, more of a place for us to go.
Yeah, I didn't feel us against the world at all. I definitely felt we were having it was a really fun time. I had incredible dreams that night that I had recorded my song. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, where it was like a pink sky and a mirrored water with little grasses coming through, and there was all these beautiful audio, like serene sounds, pitches, you know, like would be a synthesizer pitches, but they're all like nature kind of things. And it was really vivid to the point that, you know, I remember it now, but it was much about the feelings. It was like the feelings that I'd had during the recording coming through. Like it was, you know, it was good. It was definitely one of the most exciting, creative type experiences of my life.
And did that differ from the last album when you did Two Steps from the Middle Ages?
Yes. Not that I didn't have a good time doing Two Steps, but it wasn't the same as the Lolita Nation. It was much more, I don't know, there's something about finishing things up and creating them on the spot that is like much more improvisational. You have this freshness to it that, and newness, you know, like, wow, you know, taking different directions that you may not have expected, going down unusual pathways to find new locations, you know, whatever.
But I also think there was a sense of frustration in that we thought we had just this great album. And then I remember talking to our manager and saying, well, how come why are the Smithereens getting their songs on Miami Vice and we're not going anywhere? Or they're not playing our songs anywhere. That to me was frustrating.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest takeaways that I have is the fact that you guys are talking about how collaborative this particular album was. And for me, it's just amazing to hear that on this particular record, because it's an epic album. And to hear the fact that you guys are adding in your personal creative influences into the record, I love that. I love hearing that about this particular record.
Yeah, I think we were more band-like, you know. Scott's had many lineups, and it's Scott Miller's deal, right? And so we were really more of a band in this venture.
Oh, I love that.
Wonderful. I know we're kind of wrapping up here. I just want to say, no one asked me to pick a song, but I want to mention the song Slip because no one talks about it. And I love that song. Just
That
want
was fun to
that.
play.
What is it about that particular track, Ronnie?
Oh, just like with all the great Scott Millers, just the chord changes and the everything, you know, it's just a great song. And maybe it's the generic title or whatever. No one ever mentions it. So I just wanted to give it a shout out, if you will.
And
Shout out for Slip.
Slip, yes.
I would have picked Kenneth, What's the Frequency for mine. No surprise, right, Soraya, for a title
None
lead
at
off track.
all.
Lead off
None
track.
at all.
All right. Well, if
Wonderful.
any final messages.
Oh, nobody mentioned The Real Sheila. That was the single,
Oh,
Yes,
right?
yes.
No, The Real Sheila. What about
Right.
Look Away, Donnette? We should talk about Look Away, maybe.
Oh,
That's a
no, we don't
wonderful
need
song.
to talk about Look Away.
That's a
But
wonderful
The
song.
Real Sheila, I listened to that song and I mean, I've heard it so many times that I've kind of like, oh yeah, The Real Sheila. I listened to it last night and I was like, oh, that was good. That was really good. So
It's incredible. And then
don't
Shelley.
count it
yeah.
out, you know.
No. Let's talk about
Um,
Shelley on The Real Sheila. Amazing.
What
If
did I
that's
do?
you.
Amazing?
If that's you, the keyboard part.
Yeah, it's a pretty small keyboard part, you know.
It's loud. It's prominent in the song. It
I
drives
guess
the
so.
song.
But I
Yeah.
didn't have a lot to do in there. I remember, you know, just doing a lot of standing and dancing with that. I wanted to mention that Jonathan Sagal had an interview with someone now I'm forgetting back in October of 2020, where he reviews Lolita Nation, and he really did some in-depth taking apart of the meaning of the songs. And I did not write it all down, but you may want to look that up if you're interested in hearing some analysis, because he's got so much more to say about it than I ever thought about, and certainly went in different directions than what we've discussed here today. And that's what these notes are from that I'm trying to follow that I can't read. He was saying so much stuff, I started just writing down notes about my thoughts about the songs, and nothing that I haven't mentioned so far. But you should check it out if you want to hear some other analysis of that.
Yeah.
This record.
No, it's great. I listened to that.
Oh,
when
you
it came
did?
out.
I
Oh,
thought
yeah,
it was really fun. I really enjoyed
No.
that.
Wonderful.
I got really
Wonderful.
stoked about that. And
Hey, when you guys toured this record, who had the most luggage?
was it Deanne?
Oh, yeah.
Deanne's on, I don't know if she went on that tour actually, but she was famous for having the most luggage ever.
Okay.
I remember Shelley had the behemoth.
Yeah, the behemoth.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, but the behemoth,
That's
I
right.
had not only all of my clothes and everything, I also had all my bedding in one suitcase. So,
Wow.
it could be called the behemoth, but it wasn't.
You're right, it was big but compact.
Yes.
There's always somebody that packs a little too heavy on a tour.
I mean, do you guys know Deanne was our sound person for one of the tours? Was she on this tour? Am I thinking of the one?
That was Jimmy.
Jimmy was on.
Lolita Nation.
He was? You sure? Well, you got.
Because there was Jimmy, there was Doug, and then there was Deanne. And
yeah, Deanne is. Well, she had the.
you know
she had a lot
what?
of
Jimmy
luggage,
was Jimmy was Big Shot Chronicles, and then
Okay.
Deanne was Lolita Nation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I remember she had 2 albums that she would always play the 2 songs, the Grateful Dead, and then Def Leppard had that album, and so she would crank it.
I don't remember that at all. I just remember lots of luggage.
It was Touch
Nice.
of Grey was the first song, and then she would play the whole album of Def Leppard.
Oh, wow. They always have their favorites. So you're not going to hear about the behemoth on Jonathan Siegel's take on this.
No,
All
he
right?
didn't
Just
know
saying.
about my behemoth then.
Okay,
I
just saying,
might
yeah.
even still have that suitcase for sentimental value.
Wonderful.
I still have my rubber dress. That rubber dress, the quarter of a wetsuit. That was Scott's title for it, the quarter of a wetsuit. it's neoprene doesn't handle aging very well. It's sort of this
Right.
stiff little piece of wetsuit material now. It's not. but I'm
Well,
clinging
Keith-
to it. I'm clinging to my identity.
I finally donated my peace sign pants. Which
you did?
Oh, no, not the famous peace sign pants.
That's gonna be a
Oh,
museum.
So
Who
is
did you
that,
donate them to?
yeah, where are they at? Is it at
Yeah, where do you donate that stuff?
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
some Goodwill someplace and some
Oh.
nice person was
There are fans that are crying now, I'm sure.
someone's reliving the 60s.
Well, people are always talking about those pants. They're always saying, "Oh, those are great. Those are great pants Geese got on."
Guy, did you continue to play music after Game Theory?
No, I finished, went back to college and then I got into finance. So
Smart
I
one,
just-
yes.
the funniest thing was you were talking about my cousin Mark. Mark Eitzel was doing a photo shoot up at on Nob Hill by the Big Four restaurant, and I was coming back from work wearing my suit, and I saw Mark and I went up and said hi, and then Pete Buck had played on Mark's album. And Pete Buck was like, "Oh, hey, Guy, like, are you still playing music?" I said, "No, I'm in finance." And then I was dead to him. He like, what the fuck? I thought, yeah, not everybody in music is a billionaire like you.
That's hilarious. Soraya, do you have any last questions before we close out?
I got a lot to process, but no, I think I'm good for right now. But wow, I'm still wrapping my head around the idea that a lot of these songs were unfinished. Because when I listen to Lolita Nation, I have a very different idea of how I thought it started out. So I'm still there. But oh my gosh, this is so good.
Yeah.
Too much.
Thanks, you guys. This was special. As Donnette put it, you guys are the surviving members of the Lolita Nation.
Only living male member.
yay.
Oh my gosh.
The living male member, yes.
That means something totally different to Ronnie when you say male member.
What does that mean?
No, your pictures are all freezing on my screen. I'm not seeing movement, and I've got the best Ronnie face. Oh, it just went away.
Oh.
It was really great. Expression of outrage.
Yikes.
Well, we definitely wanted to thank the three of you for coming on. You were part of musical history, in my opinion. And
Yes.
I have a lot of music in this particular album, and this band is very special to me. So having the three of you on here is just blowing my mind, and it's just amazing. I appreciate the three of you taking time to meet with us. And of course, Ronnie, our great.
I don't know if it's
What's that, Shelley?
She froze again.
I know for me, this is really special because I haven't talked to
I've lost
Donnie
audio.
and Shelley forever. And
That's
so
what I was going to
Oh.
say, Guy, exactly. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to reconnect with, people who have meant so much to me, really. And it's just so important. And we've been meaning to kind of do this for a while, and we finally have done it thanks to you guys. So
I
Thank you so
love that it
much.
still feels like family.
yes, yes.
Love you guys.
Love you too, Guy.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks a
All right.
million.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye,
Bye,
everybody.
Wow.
Ronnie, thank you for making this happen.
Ronnie, you are the guy. Thank you.
I got to take a moment. That ending there was, wow. I'm all choked up. Just to see the love. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're all a little choked up.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So good. So great. All three of them are so wonderful. It's good. Guy, none of us know Guy, like it's so great. What a great guy. And
Yes. And I'm not blowing any smoke when I said that we actually do get lots of requests. Every time we post anything game theory related.
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
Guy? Get Guy. So
well, he hasn't done any interviews that I have, that I know of. So like
Well,
you said,
that's-
he got out of the business, went into finance. I mean, anyway, all three are such sweethearts. Yeah, just thanks for having me along to
Gosh.
this is a dream of mine. So I love, like I said, Scott's my background moves. It's weird. I have a new iPad and it moves with me. That's interesting.
Oh, you're not doing that. I thought you were doing that.
No, it moves with my head. Wow.
It's following you.
Yeah.
It's the little green men inside that iPad. They're following you. Okay, Ronnie, I have to ask, is there any question that you didn't get to ask, knowing that you had the three of them together? Is there anything that you left out?
No, I mean, of course, I'll think of stuff later, but my approach to doing these things is to kind of just get them going, and then they kind of take it, and it kind of sparks you to say something, and then I just like to, you see the kind of dumb stuff I throw in, like who had the biggest luggage. I mean, that's just like, that's stuff I'm just curious about being in a band, and just, the day-to-day of being in a band on tour. I mean, you're basically with each other besides that hour and a half or whatever you're on stage. You know what I mean? So like, packing the van is a big deal, and how, I don't know, I'm just intrigued with that. Do they carry the equipment in every night? Some bands do that, like Shelley mentioned having bedding in her suitcase. So obviously they were sleeping on some floors and stuff along the way. So
the one piece of data Jonathan Siegel doesn't have about the behemoth. We
exactly. Yeah, it might be a more intelligent dissertation of the record, but
yeah, so we
talk to them. So
that's one of the things that we love about having you on, because you have these questions that are specific to touring bands. Like you might ask who slept in what bed, or how many nights, or were you in a hotel versus the van or whatever. So we always appreciate that kind of
there we go. I forgot to ask Guy who he slept with when he had to share a bed. It was probably Gil. That's my guess.
The rhythm section bed.
But the rhythm section section stays together.
Yeah. Because on the low budget tour, you got to share a bed every now and then.
Okay, Ronnie, I got to ask you, did you know that this album was as improvisational as they mentioned it was?
Just by knowing the record, I mean, I'm not surprised, because there's a lot of like things you can tell, or kind of, I don't know if you call them happy accidents, but just things that like probably couldn't have been planned on paper. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
Like you could tell Scott and Mitch like really worked together on this.
Specifically side 3, right?
Well, specific side 3, but also like just endings and beginnings and little bits in between, and the sequencing on this record too. I mean, that must have been something, trying to figure out how to sequence this thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's
like in
that
Wikipedia thing that, the word sprawling really fits with this record, right? I mean, it's they really went for it on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And succeeded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, so sequencing is always something that I want to know about, because to me, that's one of my favorite parts about any project that I've been involved with, is after everything's done is where everything fits into it. I love that aspect of putting out a release. I didn't bother asking that because I figured that was a Scott probably.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
True.
But yeah, I love that aspect of
it's important. Yeah. I mean, it can make or break a record, really, to a certain extent.
Yeah, even when they were talking about the live sequencing of tracks, and they were talking about the waist and the knees, and always having the follow-up track. And I know, Ronnie, in your band, the Muffs, you were a big part of putting the set lists together, so you know how that goes, and trying to pace everything.
There's a pace, and there's certain songs that like fit together well. You kind of arrive on that. Like we would change up our sets to a certain extent in the Muffs. We played songs in blocks, like blocks of 4 or 5. Like we'd have a line between, so we'd try to like play those 4 in a row. And there's you don't put two samey ones, if you will. I mean, in the Muffs we got a lot of samey ones, right? But you put, you take a break, play the pop song, followed by the you know, the fast one maybe, and into the cowpokey one, into the, yeah, I mean, you know, it's all, and then you have like your drummer might not want to play too many fast ones in a row. Roy. He'd often, you can see him glaring at me sometimes on stage because for that reason. We'd be ready to go and he's like needs a break. But yeah, there's all that. And then there's ones that, there's ones that don't work live, you figure out. You know, so yeah, no, it's part of the art of, if I can call music an art form.
One thing I was really happy about with having Donnette, Shelley, and Guillaume today is sometimes when you have multiple people from the same band talking, it's I worry about how it's going to play out, but I loved the input of the three of them, and like you said, Ronnie, them feeding off of each other memories, and they all had such valuable input. It was great. It was great how that played out with these three, because you never know when you have multiple members from a band playing. We've learned that it doesn't always work out the way that it worked out today, which is
this is really a beautiful harmony between the three of them. I mean, and I liked how they all three reiterated the fact that they were a family. And I loved what Shelley said. She goes, this was the album where it had the most band-like feeling, where we all had the most band-like experience.
Collaborative.
If you should use the word feeling, but I'm just really kind of blown away. I'm really speechless. It's hard for me to put my thoughts into words right now.
Yeah, not every band is a family like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, they were, you know, my band was, I mean, but it's not for a second did I not realize that how special that was, because I know a lot of musician friends, and some people never land there, you know, and so it is a special thing, and yeah, this was great.
Thank you,
Ronnie.
so much,
we can't thank you enough, because I don't think we could have gotten the three of them together if it wasn't for you.
That's not true.
Serious. No, in all seriousness. That is why you are the guru.
This is Paisley Stage, Raspberry, and Run. Did I say that right? Is that the right order?
Featuring, yes.
featuring Ronnie Barnett.
Yes. Thank you, Ronnie.
Oh my God, thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, then I'll see you Saturday, Ronnie.
I'll see you Saturday. Yeah, okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Okay.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Let me exit so you can talk. Okay.
All right, Soraya.
Oh my God.
Right?
First of all, I can't love Donnette, Shelley, and Guy more than I already do. But what a great conversation. I'm really still kind of speechless. And there's a lot to process here. But you know, I'm trying to picture this first image that Guy gave us of Mitch Easter building this drum tunnel.
Oh yeah.
Gil
Out of towels.
And then Guy says, yeah, Gil and I, we were just kind of bored watching him, like build this thing. But it just goes to show you how much time, thought, and just reimagining went into this album.
I love it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just, this is really a great talk.
Agreed.
And it's a fantastic album.
It is. Yeah.
And now that I understand a little more about the creation of it, I think I can hear it a little differently now.
Yeah.
So all of this, I think, really just underlines how innovative Scott Miller really was. And I'm glad that we have not just these albums, but his bandmates.
Yes. Who
to
played-
help tell the story.
Yeah, and they played a big part in this album in particular, so that's good
Yeah.
to hear about. So
And I think there's still more story to be told, but
oh yeah,
boy,
yeah.
this was really special.
agreed.
So
Agreed. It was a
Jeff,
treat.
I don't know. I need a moment. So mi gente, a grubiar.
Grew on Paisley people.